I said happy birthday to you on January the 2nd. I went out of my way to say happy birthday to you. Unfortunately, I entered the wrong date into my computer, but you know, that's not what a heartless man does.
That's true. You are a dichotomy. You're sort of the Ceausescu of radio. You do the Romanian dictator who did a few good things, but then behind the scenes was knifing everybody. No, you are. You have a big heart. Unfortunately, he has a very big ego and anger streak, too. All right, I'm sorry. I'll back off.
You're the sorriest person I've ever had the displeasure of working with, Johnson.
Usually works
as cold as Bob Lassiter's heart.
I like my other one. If you want to keep beer cold, put it next to Bob's heart. When is your birthday? Because I'm going to be embarrassed if I don't remember it now.
September the 30th.
Oh, good. I got a long time to think.
Yes, you do.
September 30th.
Long time to save.
We may not even be friends by then. I keep this up. Tonight's low 32, tomorrow's high 37, with temperatures falling into the 20s tomorrow afternoon. It'll be good and slippery. Bob will like that. Widows slipping and breaking hips around the windy lakefront.
Yes, the old mercury in the thermometer is going to be as short as Johnson.
Official WLS temperature 30 degrees. Along the lake, it's 31. Our next news will be at 5 o'clock. But we'll have bulletins at once, because I'm Jim Johnson. WLS Talk Radio 890 News. Now back to the man who's a legend in his own mind, Bob Lassiter.
You're still very distressed about the picture, aren't you? That's what all this is about, isn't it?
He got his picture in the paper yesterday. People were calling me. His picture's in there. Did he make any mention of Jim? No. But I'm not small enough to complain about it. You don't hear me whining about it.
I made mention of you to the reporter from the Chicago Tribune, but she said she just didn't, the paper just didn't like to get involved in that kind of stuff. It was a family newspaper. Thank you, Johnson.
See you later.
Oh, I would... afraid that may be true. A sense of the audience today. A very special sense of the audience today. It's one of those asking you shall receive kind of shows. Off it is to a car phone. Hi, Car. You're on the air, WLS.
Hello.
Hi, where are you headed?
Well, actually, I'm sitting in the parking lot getting ready to go back up to the office, Cumberland and the Kennedy.
How far are you willing to go to fight the war on drugs?
How far?
Yeah. What are you willing to have done?
Well,
invade countries, suspend civil liberties, that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't think that's the way to attack it. I think it has to be attacked at the home, and people have to become responsible for their actions there.
Well, isn't that a nice limp-wristed, bedwetting liberal type of an attitude? There's a major problem in this country, isn't there?
Yeah, right. And the way we've been attacking it hasn't worked. And the government and their grandiose ideas haven't cut anything back. It's probably worse than when we started.
Well, let me see if I have this correct now, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I just heard, or at least what I thought I just heard, is you are willing to go so far as to ask people to change.
Yeah, change themselves.
Haven't we done that all along? That didn't work either.
No, what has changed? I mean, the parents aren't responsible for their kids. Oh, my kid's on drugs. What am I supposed to do about it? And they get slipped by, and then it just keeps continuing in a cycle that has to be broken. It's not the supply; it's the demand. You've got to do away with the demand in anything.
Well, how are you going to do that? If I say, oh, please don't do drugs, please don't do drugs.
Oh, no. Say no is like, thanks, Nancy, but it didn't work.
Well, you need a swift kick here and there, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, how far are you willing to go?
Well, I think the people that are using it have to be, treated tougher. It starts here. It starts with the user and the guy that's putting it out. I mean, it's not the other countries. I mean, it's going to get in. It's a market. I mean, would it be to legalize it? I don't know. But something is not working, and it has to change.
What's the answer to the dispute over abortion?
I don't know if there's... that, to me, is very individual.
Well, it isn't to a lot of people.
Well, I don't think people have rights to tell other people what they should do with their bodies. That's something that they have to live with.
So the answer to the dispute over abortion is all those people who don't think the way that you think should think the way that you think.
Well, I just think that they're trying to influence me into doing what they want to. Probably isn't going to work.
You don't think those people are sincere when those those sweet little old women march around in tennis shoes carrying signs saying abortion is murder? You don't think they're really sincere?
No, they probably are sincere.
So they should think the way you think, though.
No.
That's the answer.
They have the right to go out there and march in the streets and do what they want, but by the same token, you can't take away the right of someone that was raped or whatever to abort a baby. I mean, that's a personal sacrifice, and they live with it every day. It's not something that's an easy decision for anyone.
What's the best way for this community to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday?
A holiday.
A holiday?
Yeah.
Holiday for a womanizer?
For a womanizer?
Yeah.
Well, it's no different than past presidents or past holidays that we celebrate. I mean, there's
I can't really think of anybody who we've named a national holiday for so soon after his death, after all the dirty linen was still sitting in the hamper.
Well, it's what the dirty linen, we all have that. I mean, it's his ideal, I think, that's celebrated, not so much the man.
Well, maybe we should have waited a few years.
Or for what? I mean, the ideal's still good. It doesn't.
Oh yeah, the ideal's good, but is it really the right thing to be doing to recognize somebody with a national holiday who did things that, yes, were very, very good in this country, but also did things that we supposedly stand against?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think maybe it should be Martin Luther King Day. It should be what he stood for, and I don't know what phrase you would put to it. But I think the ideal that he was trying to get across is something that should be celebrated. And I don't know, that's the way to look at it.
So we should celebrate Martin Luther King Day without Martin Luther King?
Well, I think there might be an ideal to it. What is it? Freedom for everyone. Have a Freedom Day. I don't, that's, might be the way to do it. But the man himself, big deal. We're all, it's a little messenger. And it was his ideal, so.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
591-8900, 2 lines available for the moment. Aurora, hi, you're on the air, WLS.
Hello, this is Aurora?
Aurora, it is.
All right.
How far are you willing to go to fight the war on drugs, Aurora?
Well, I guess I can go pretty extreme. I feel that anyone with has drugs, using drugs, should be arrested. But when it comes down to prosecuting them, I feel they should be allowed to be rehabilitated by...
Oh, great. Go out and arrest, 10, 15, 20 million people. Tie up the court systems. All those people who, are out there stealing purses and raping and holding up gas stations are going to be out on parole waiting their turn in court. Oh, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
No, I'm saying more like in a medical. Use them, try to use them, have the medical community work with them. Give them that option or go to jail.
How about other things like maybe invading Colombia?
Invading Colombia?
Yeah, you want to go that far?
I feel if it's really they know who to go after and what is that they know who to go after and where it is at that they could go in.
Well, that's kind of interesting. You would invade what is in essence an innocent country.
Well, what's an innocent country?
The vast majority of people in Colombia are not drug dealers, nor drug manufacturers, nor farmers or growing drugs. Most of those people are quite innocent, and most of those people would get in the way. I mean, would you turn the army on the ghetto? Because a lot of drug dealers and drug users live in the ghetto? But no, you turn the army on innocent people.
No, there is such a thing as sometimes even declaring martial law in the ghetto, if you want to think of it that way.
Declare martial law on the ghetto. Take all of those people who live in the ghetto, the overwhelming majority of whom, again, are innocent, and inflict upon them a loss of their civil liberties.
Well, there may be a time when we have to... There has been times where people have lost their civil liberties because of...
Are you a drug dealer?
No, I'm not.
Oh, sure, that's what you say. Do you mind proving to me you're not a drug dealer?
Prove to you I'm not a drug dealer?
Yeah, prove to me you're not a drug dealer. That's relatively easy. Let me see your bank records.
All right.
And how about if I have the police come over tonight and rip your house apart, seeing if there's any money laying around there that you can't account for? Do you mind that?
I would mind that, but if I don't...
I see. You want your civil liberties because, how dare I assume that you're a drug dealer?
You can assume that, but once at certain points you can easily prove that I'm not one.
Sure, I can easily prove it if I go through all of your bank records. see to it whether or not you have a receipt for that big, flashy new car?
Well, I wouldn't have big flashy cars.
All the more reason to suspect you're a drug dealer. Now we can suspect you're really trying to hide it.
Oh.
Oh, I see. You would go so far in fighting the war on drugs as to invade another nation, strip people of their civil liberties, but how dare we consider you might be involved in the drug trade?
Okay. I don't think to the extreme that we would end up going that to denying total civil liberties where everyone is assumed guilty of it. You know, all
right, just all those people that live in Colombia in the ghetto. What's the answer to the dispute over abortion?
That's real hard.
Of course it is. That's why I asked.
That's pretty personal. My sister ended up having an abortion, but she did not want to have an abortion. She had a tubular pregnancy, and we prayed and thought, and the whole family was with her, but it came down to a point where a decision had to be made. I felt that I'm against abortion, but I do feel that a person should really have the choice. I don't like the clinics. It seems like it's like a guy going.
What's the difference between having an abortion in a clinic, a doctor's office, or a hospital?
A hospital.
But what's the difference?
A clinic, it's like...
It's a relatively minor procedure, especially in the early stages. Well, obviously.
Well, my sister's was not a minor thing. If she had...
your sister's
if she had gone to an abortion clinic, she might have died from it.
I doubt very much an abortion clinic would have touched your sister with a 10-foot pole, and she had a life-threatening pregnancy.
That's just it. They don't have the facilities to, if there's a problem. You go in there and they admit you were pregnant, and she goes in and there's a complication. They don't offer the facilities. Also, I feel that it's like most ladies go in and they have decided in their mind that this is the only way, and they're not really given an option. They don't given a chance to think about it. I feel that there may be an opportunity they go in and see a doctor one time, and she'll never see that doctor again. She's seen him just that one time, and that's it. I mean, if she sees the doctor won't even remember.
Well, aren't people entitled to seek health care wherever they want?
Yes, they should be entitled to health care wherever they want, but it's like the doctor is only there to do abortion. It's like...
so he's a specialist.
It's like an assembly line more than that. A specialist, you go in to see a foot doctor. He is there. He will tell you everything. You go in there one day, you have a problem. You'll see him a week from then to have whatever problems you have with your foot. And if you want to see somebody else, you can in that time. But you go into an abortion clinic, you go there for the one reason, and that is to have the abortion. The doctor is there to make sure that gets you in to have the abortion. That is the whole premise of the abortion clinic.
What's the best way to celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday? Is it a national holiday? Is that the best way? Is that appropriate?
I don't think it should be, quote, a national holiday. I think more along the lines of like calling it a Patriots Day or
Patriots Day,
Civil Liberties Day.
Why are you trying to strip Martin Luther King from his accomplishments?
Because, well, it's the only national holiday we have that celebrates an individual. If you want, even President's Day now.
It's celebrated February 22nd, George Washington's birthday.
Right. It's not. We don't have Abraham Lincoln's birthday and George Washington. We just have President's Day.
Columbus Day?
Columbus Day, we're
celebrates an individual.
It's
Day Columbus discovered America.
Day Columbus, right. But the idea behind that is he is setting forth to find something. It's the adventure And the...
Don't you think it was an adventure going through the civil rights movement?
Well, yeah, but the
Sure
idea
was.
that the idea that we're celebrating...
I mean, Columbus was off to find wealth and riches, and he gets a holiday. Martin Luther King wasn't off to find wealth and riches.
Well, so maybe we shouldn't have Columbus Day.
Thank you very much. 5918900. Partly cloudy, windy, a little cooler tonight. Tomorrow, partly sunny, windy, and turning colder as the day progresses. An overnight low of 30.
Till you knock on your door with a chicken.
Your opinion counts at 591-8900. Chicago's talk station, WLS, Talk Radio 890.
Finally happened. Alderman knocked on the door last night, but he had a wedge of brie with him. We like chicken better than brie. Let's go to the west side. Hi, West. You're on the air at WLS.
Hello.
Hi there, Wes. How you doing?
Oh, just fine. How are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. How far are you willing to go on the war on drugs?
Well, see,
That's what a society is, controlling other people.
is that right? See, that's
Sure.
That's a strange definition. See, I think
Not a strange definition. Why do you wear clothes? Because of societal pressure. Try walking down the street without them. Tell people they're infringing upon your constitutional rights.
Well, that's true. I guess you're right. There's a certain amount of my own choices that probably are dictated by these societal dictations. But to try to turn, I do not. The one thing I don't do is try to control other people. So I myself wouldn't mind people.
Sure you do. You're uptight about nudity, right?
Only because of the.
So you want other people to wear clothes. Well, most people in this country are uptight about taking drugs. What's the difference?
Well, I guess that makes a point, but is that correct, though? Is that the way we should be? Isn't that the real point here? I mean, should we be that way? Should we be so obsessed with controlling everybody's individual choices in general?
Well, you don't seem to mind when you agree with the choices that you're controlling.
Well, I mean, I guess, obviously there's always the choices that would affect other people, so therefore I'm not going to choose that people can invade my house and invade the things that I need to make my choice-making abilities there. But to just say that, people can't do what they want with their lives as long as it doesn't affect me is just ridiculous, and I don't understand it. Is there a reason for it? I mean, is there anything, is there a real reason why drugs are illegal?
Yeah, because it makes people uptight.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it uptight the kind of crime that is brought about because it's illegal? I mean, isn't that also a thing to be uptight about?
Could have sworn we had crime before we had drugs.
There's a lot of crime that is just associated with the fact that it is illegal. Don't you think? Don't you agree with that?
What's the answer to the dispute over abortion?
Well, I think that's a similar case. It's just another case of trying to control that which we can't. And I think that's the other thing about even back to drugs, but also abortion. As illegal as we want to make it, if we ever did make abortion completely illegal, it would still go on, and we'd have all the bad side effects of it being illegal.
Well, murder still goes on, whether it's against the law or not against the law. Would you assume, or would you presume that therefore we should take away the murder laws because it's going to happen anyway?
Well, again, murder is in the category of a choice that would affect other people.
Okay, how about income tax evasion? People are still going to evade their income taxes. Maybe murder was a real
well, that's still under the category
bad analogy.
If we took away that, we could be affecting our ability to make choices. I mean, if we assume that we need this income tax, if everybody assumes that, and it's a popular opinion and a popular vote, then
a lot of people think we need the fetuses that are aborted. We're going to need them to help pay Social Security. We're going to need them to be in the labor force. We're going to need them just for human companionships.
Oh, but they're not real. I mean, they're not.
What do you mean they're not real? They're very real issues.
They're not saying they want those fetuses. I mean, they could be criminals, those fetuses. I mean,
Yeah, they could be, but the odds are they're not going to be.
Well, so why don't they just promote free love and all kinds of babies everywhere? I mean, they're not promoting that, are they? And they're not promoting everybody just to have as many kids as I mean, it doesn't seem like that's their position at all.
Is it appropriate to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday with a national holiday? Is that the best way to do it?
I think that I don't really understand the whole reason for a holiday. If it makes people understand the values behind the holiday, I guess it is appropriate. To the extent that it's just an excuse to have a day off for the post office, I don't think that's the goal. But I'm not as emotional about that one as the other two subjects. But as long as the people seem to get something from the holiday, I guess that's my opinion. I really don't know what people really get from a holiday.
Do you get the day off?
No, I don't. Well, I'm a self-employed individual, so I have a hard time taking any time off.
Does it cost you any money? The holiday?
It's kind of nice to have a holiday sometimes because then my clients will have the day off and I can work without having to worry about the phone ring as much.
Do you have employees?
No, self-employed with one employee.
Give him the day off, or her, as the case may be?
I am the employee.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I usually don't get the day off.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
591-8900 is the telephone number. What's going on? A sense of the audience. The thing that makes it somewhat different is the sense changes every 20 minutes. I have 36 different questions broken down into groups of 3, which gives me 12 groups. And you see there are 12 20-minute blocks within the program. And so I can't guarantee what your question is going to be. As a matter of fact, if you're on hold and you're the one selected immediately after the news, forget all of those questions you just heard. Don't beg, don't plead. You're just going to have to deal with what comes up next. We all have to deal with what comes up next. Well, where is it scripted that the newsman can groan?
I'm next. Can I be happy for a change? Can somebody be happy in the room? Is it permissible?
Well, what do you mean? I'm happy most of the hour.
4:59:30 Johnson can be happy. To be followed by Lassiter Barb. To be followed by a Johnson rebut. To be followed by Lassiter attack.
There is no such script. Here you go again, making things up. How do you ever expect to get credibility with the listeners when you make things up like that?
These listeners are intelligent.
This is WLS, Talk Radio 890.
I even withheld a little barb at you.
Welcome back, fun seekers. What else would you have but a little barb? Wednesday, January the 10th, 1990. Lassiter with you at WLS Talk Radio 890, Chicago's talk station.
Uncalled for. Attacking my sexuality. I can leave, you know.
There you go again. You always try to turn everything into something dirty. I'd have no way of knowing how big your barb is. I don't want to know how big your barb is. Couldn't care less. Whoa! I would hate to tell you what that man just threatened to do. Unbelievable. Welcome back, fun seekers. Here it is, the 5 o'clock hour, and the sense of the audience continues. Immediately back to the telephones. We will go. Rogers Park. Hi there, Rogers. You're on the air at WLS.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Real good.
How much longer do we continue to support Israel in this country?
Could you speak a little louder, Bob?
How much longer do we continue to support Israel?
Oh, I hope as long as they can keep up the fight. I just wish they would go away from socialism. I think we'd have to pay a lot less if they go free market over there.
Keep up the fight. Which fight did you have in mind?
Well, the fight against the various terrorists that keep trying to go across the border and kill school children and school buses and such.
Pretty much the way the Israelis got the country doing that kind of stuff.
No.
No?
As I recall, their most egregious act was blowing up a hotel that was headquarters for the British military.
Yeah, terrorism.
They didn't just go after civilians.
They didn't try to wreak havoc?
Yeah, but
Wreak havoc.
they didn't go blatantly after civilians. Like right now, the Palestinians are using kids as they're putting kids out there with
throwing rocks. Oh my God.
Hey, when you get a rock in the head, believe me, it hurts and it can kill.
Well, on top of that, it's in the neighborhood of $5 billion a year. How much longer can you continue that?
Oh, we can continue that forever. I mean, we spend more than that on cosmetics, for God's sakes.
So that makes it okay? In times of economic difficulties? In times of budgetary problems?
You bet.
What do you get for your $5 billion?
We get a bastion of freedom over there compared to the surrounding states. We get inculation of democracy over there. It's a little bit of democracy over there.
What do we owe the elderly?
What do we owe the elderly?
Yeah.
We owe them whatever they gave us. It's a free world, buddy. Whatever they gave me, I owe them. That's it.
Well, what do you mean, whatever they gave you?
I mean, for instance, I owe my people. I'm living with an aunt right now. I owe her what she gave me. I owe my parents what they gave me, my life.
Well, didn't in essence every person that came before you give you America? Give you the America that they didn't?
A lot of people that came before me tried to take it away. Look at Gus Hall. You were talking about Gus Hall earlier. Look at him.
Well, we're not talking about individuals. We're talking about the elderly. And for the most part, those people work very hard to build up this country.
It's made up of individuals, though. It's not made up of proletariats or mass groups. It's made up of people, individuals.
Those people gave of their sweat, their capital to build this country up.
Oh,
and you don't owe them anything?
A lot of them have nice, tidy incomes, and they're still getting
a lot of them don't.
Social Security.
A lot of them don't.
That's right, a lot of them, but not all of them. They're individuals.
So what do you owe those people?
I don't know them individually. I don't know them a thing.
You don't owe anybody that came before you?
I owe lots of people. I owe my people.
No, I'm talking about the people that came before you and laid down the path for you to follow. To make your lot in life easier.
Good for them. They laid down the path. They did the right thing. I hope I lay down a path for those that follow me. That's the right thing to do.
Well, forget the economics. Just as a human being, don't you owe somebody who is now past his prime, can no longer take care of him or herself something?
That's typical of liberals to say, I'm not saying you're a liberal, but it's typical of them to say, forget the economics, give me some money.
Well, is it typical then of conservatives to say, to hell with humanity? I don't think so.
Not of me. I'm a conservative, and I never say that.
And besides, did I mention money?
Well, you sure did. You said what you owe them. I mean, owe. What do you mean owe? Owe is money.
Well, I can owe you a favor.
Well, if you mean money, sure. You can definitely owe me a favor. Owe me as much as you want. Don't just ask me to owe you.
So you're the one who interjected economics into it, aren't you? I mean, I just said, what do you owe the elderly? I mean, do you owe them...
Whenever somebody talks about owing, I immediately make sure they're not saying I owe them money.
Well, that must be because you're, conservative. Do you owe, for example, an elderly woman who lives by herself an afternoon of your time, maybe helping her... to go shopping or just sitting there and listening to her stories?
No.
Don't?
Although I, as well as lots of people, will do that because it's the right thing to do, I don't owe it to them, no. I mean, that's altruism, and I do that. I just happen to be a person that does that, but that's not because I owe it to them. No, that's socialism. When you're forced to do something for somebody else, that's socialism. No.
Do you have any problem with requiring employers to provide health care benefits in this country?
Oh, a big problem. It puts people out of work, like raising the minimum wage. Even the Democrats wanted
death
that.
and disease put people out of work, too.
It sure does.
When you can't afford medical care.
Too. But, I mean, why put people out of work just to make yourself feel good?
Why put people out of work? How are you so sure it would put people out of work? Maybe it would put smaller dividend checks in the mail.
The most liberal Democrats in Congress admitted they would put about 100,000 people around there in the D.C. area out of work when they raised the minimum wage. That was the most liberal Democrats in Congress.
I didn't say anything about the minimum wage. I said health care benefits.
Same idea. You make it more expensive to employ people, they employ less people. Very simple. And it's always the poorest, the most disenfranchised that lose their jobs, not the white guys. It's always the black guys.
Well, an awful lot of white guys don't have health care insurance.
Huh?
An awful lot of white guys don't have health care insurance either.
Well, I don't know what the figures are, but I would imagine that it's... the whites are better off.
I could have sworn I was in the middle of the Reagan economic miracle. Every year I hear, corporate profits are up, corporate profits are up, corporate profits are up. I mean, don't you think some of those corporate profits could be used for health care insurance for people that can't afford it?
No, not if those corporate profits go to our individual profits. They belong to individuals. Those people all pay taxes. I mean, why don't people buy insurance?
A lot of people can't afford insurance.
Pardon?
A lot of people can't afford insurance, and one of the reasons a lot of people can't afford insurance is because of squeezing the bottom line for corporate profits. And where do you squeeze? But you squeeze in the payroll department.
Very, very few people couldn't invest a lot more in insurance than they do. I mean,
really? Have you checked to see what family individual coverage costs these days?
My dad's been in insurance all my life.
Then I assume you know it would be...
It costs around $1,000 a year for people to get some kind of basic
$1,000 a year for a family of 3 or 4?
I don't know about a family of 3. I'm talking about an individual.
Well, we're talking... Most people in this country are not individuals. They're members of families.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, and it costs several $100 a month to get independent coverage for a family.
All right. That's several $100 a month.
Yeah, well,
and that's several thousand a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's several thousand a year.
Yeah, most people can't afford that.
That sounds like a good investment for your family, health insurance, doesn't it?
Well, it's not an investment.
Well, sure it is. You're investing.
It's no more. You're no more investing in health insurance than you're investing in groceries at the supermarket.
Well, that's exactly
it's a necessity.
An investment is putting money towards something.
It's a necessity. It's not an investment.
Well, sure you are. That's what the word means, putting money towards something.
I mean, you don't have to have a share of IBM stock. That might be classified as an investment, although it's actually a speculation. But you do need health care insurance. You
You're
do need...
speculating if you're going for something that's not a blue chip. A blue chip's it's a rock-solid investment. That's why they call it a blue
It's a
chip.
speculation.
Well, okay. Fine.
I mean, all you're doing is
Health insurance
all you're
is
doing is
speculation,
betting
too.
that somebody's going to be a bigger fool than you and
Health
pay more
insurance
money
is
for it.
speculation too, Bob. It only pays off if you get sick. Otherwise, you're just putting
No, it's
money
not
down a hole.
speculation. It's a necessity, and on top of that, it's almost a responsibility so that you don't become a burden on the
Look at
community and the
insurance.
society.
You're playing the odds. You're speculating that if you get sick, your payments will be worthwhile. If you don't get sick, your payments weren't worthwhile. But you've played the odds.
I thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
591-8900-1 line available. Wheeling, hi, you're on the air at WLS.
Hey, what's going on?
How much longer do we support Israel?
I don't think we should support them at all.
You don't think we should support them at all?
No.
The country crumbles if we don't support them.
Then let them crumble.
Let them crumble?
Let them crumble.
Several million people surrounded by enemies?
Several million people surrounded by enemies.
Who've done an awful lot of dirty work for this country?
They made those enemies for them. We didn't make them.
They made the enemies for them. Are you not familiar with how the state of Israel was created? Don't you know it was created by the Western world as a dumping place for Jews? To get them out of the hair of the Europeans?
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Well, it's pretty much the case. Hitler was one of the biggest supporters of the state of Israel. Did you know that?
I did know that.
It's true. So don't we owe them survival?
No. They owe it to themselves.
Can't support themselves. It's not exactly, a garden spot of the world.
Well,
just let them go?
I guess. I don't know.
What do we owe the elderly in this community?
We owe them our respect. We owe them reasonable care.
What's reasonable care?
Well, if they get sick beyond their means of being able to pay for it, our government should pay for that.
Our government?
Our government, which is basically us.
Do we owe them decent housing?
Yes, we do.
A lot of elderly in this country don't live in decent housing.
We should do something about that.
Where's the money going to come from? I mean, do we really owe people who didn't plan for their retirement something?
Well, even some people that did plan, they could have had some catastrophic illness and not had enough insurance to pay for.
Well, they could have had a bad day in the market too, I guess, and be wiped out.
Well, this is true too.
So, do we owe them a decent house and decent medical care and things of that nature?
Yes.
Even though they blew it, even though they were stupid.
Even though they blew it, even though they were stupid, they, like you were saying before, were the people that paved the way for us to be where we are right now.
Do we owe them anything else other than economic aid?
Well, there should be people there to care for them in every way they need to be cared for.
Do you personally have a responsibility to some elderly person that isn't a relative or a friend of the family or something like that?
Yes, I believe so. Because just because they're elderly or maybe even bedridden doesn't mean they're not a worthwhile person, and doesn't mean that they're a worthless part of the community.
Well, I guess then we would really have the same responsibility to middle-aged and younger people, too.
This is true.
Do you have any problem with requiring employers to provide health care benefits?
No, I don't. Because most employers, or most employees down at the lower scale, like myself, I would not be able to afford insurance if my company didn't provide it for me. And if I got sick, I'd be out of luck.
Isn't it a rather bizarre concept in this country where, your employer provides your health care benefits at his expense, private industry? I mean, shouldn't those health care benefits come out of the public sector?
The public sector can't afford it.
I mean, if your employer wants to give you medical coverage and life coverage, I mean, hell, if he wants to give you a telephone and a car, that's his business. But requiring him? Is that the American way?
That's the American way.
Thank you very much. Take care. 591-8900, one line available. 591-8900. Partly cloudy, windy, little cooler tonight. Tomorrow, partly sunny, windy, and turning colder.
And overnight, Talk Radio 890 are those of the hosts, guests, and you, our callers. WLS Talk Radio 890 engages in discussion of subjects of an adult and often intense nature. Parental discretion is advised.
To Blue Island we go. Hi there, Blue. You're on the air at WLS.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
Pretty good.
What do you want to do about the AIDS epidemic?
What do I want to do about it?
Yeah.
Oh, boy, that's a tough one. I think they should spend whatever amount of money it takes to find out the cure for this and take care of it whatever way they can.
Maybe there isn't a cure for it. You know, what if it turns out to be like cancer, something that we've been working on for hundreds of years? What do you do in the meanwhile?
If it's incurable to that point and it spreads the way it has been spreading, I say it's going to sound kind of cold, but I say take those that are infected and isolate them.
How do you find out who's infected?
Mass testing.
Mass testing?
Nationwide.
Well, if you had a nationwide test today, that doesn't ensure that you have, no AIDS tomorrow.
Well,
you'd have to do it almost every day.
Have them test every time they go for the driver's license or whatever, but, then that's what it takes.
Let them wander around for a couple of years spreading AIDS in the meanwhile?
Whatever you got to do.
You have a problem?
Survival of the entire population is, more important than survival or, protecting just a few.
Do you have any problem with a Catholic high school kicking out one of its students for getting married, like just happened here in Chicago?
Yeah.
You do?
That's ridiculous.
Why? What's ridiculous about it?
Well, the Catholic Church, I'm a Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic where I go in every Sunday and put
I don't know if it has anything to do with the
check-in.
Catholic Church, per se. It's a Catholic high school.
Well, it's a Catholic high school, and it's under the archdiocese, and they preach, what's the word for it?
What is it? Do you have any kids?
Yeah, 2 of them.
2 of them?
Right.
And you want those kids to be raised the way you want them to be raised, right?
Right.
And that's certainly your right, isn't it?
Right.
And if you would like to shelter those kids from some of the harsh realities of the world, that's certainly your right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, don't these people have a right to shelter their young Catholic girls from the harsh realities of sex and whatever?
I don't think getting married legitimately is a harsh reality.
Well, they're very concerned that, for example, some of the Vestal Virgins might inquire of this young woman as to what's it all about. Did you enjoy it? I mean, don't they have a right to shelter their kids?
I don't think they're sheltering their kids.
Well, that's what they're trying to do when they send them to a school like that. Shelter them from the horrors of the public school system.
No, you're not going to shelter them from anything by sending them to a Catholic school.
You're not?
No.
Well, okay. For the purposes of this conversation, let's say you're right that you won't shelter them, but don't you have a right to at least try?
If you want to, I guess, sure.
Well, then what's wrong with the school kicking the girl out? That's what they're trying to do, shelter their kids, whether or not it's realistic.
I don't think so.
Do you have any problem with a public school, setting aside a room at the end of the school day for a religious group to meet?
No, not at all.
You don't?
No. I think they should have school prayer.
Well, wait a second. In this country, we give all kinds of tax breaks to churches. They can go wherever they want, whenever they want, tax-free. And you want to go beyond that and use public school buildings for church services? Why?
If the kids want to gather in school, that's up to them.
Hey, they got all kinds of churches all over the place.
Well, you can't.
They got each other's houses.
School and pump them into the church.
What?
You can't take all the kids from school and stuff them in the basement of a church.
Well, there aren't that many of them want to go. I'm sure there's, if there's enough in a classroom, there's surely enough in the basement of a large building.
Well, maybe the kids are trying to get other kids in the church or other kids in the school to join them,
How about if it's one of those weird churches, like the Moonies?
I guess if you got to do it for one, you got to do it for all. Let the kids pick which one they want to go with.
Boy, it'd sure be great if, the kids at your school we're holding a Mooney's after-school church club meeting, and your kids stopped by, huh? Maybe the Hare Krishnas.
If they came home with their head shaved, we'd have a big problem.
Well, I thought you liked religion.
Well, I told you I'm not a practicing Catholic.
So some religions are okay, but some aren't.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, I'm asking.
Everybody has their own way of believing in God. You know, whether you're a Mooney or a Buddhist or whatever you are, Catholic, you know, it doesn't matter. Everybody has their own way.
And you wouldn't mind public facilities being used by the Hare Krishna people?
No.
Chanting up and down, saffron robes, inducting your children into the religion?
No, they wouldn't induct my kids into it, that's for sure. But, you know, if they want to use it...
Well, how do you know they wouldn't induct? Maybe your kids think it's neat to walk around with your head shaved in a saffron robe, chanting.
They might be into that for a while.
Yeah, well, they might be into that for a while, but they would never be exposed to it if that group wasn't meeting at the public school. Isn't that worth it to you?
They're going to be...
Keep your kids away from those weird people?
No, they're going to be exposed to it one way or the other.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Take care. 591-8900, 591-8900. The sense of the audience continues.
Bowing to public pressure, I'm Jim Johnson, WLS Talk Radio 890 News. The CTA is backing down a bit on those plans to cut service. The CTA chairman now says that they will slash service by only $2 million instead of the $5 million they were proposing. You see, at public hearings, the opposition to the cuts has been fierce, with many blacks claiming the cuts were racially motivated. Still ahead, Governor Thompson looks back, and an interesting story for you women who drink. Bottoms up. WLS Talk Radio 890 News Time is 5:29.
Don't miss the fabulous January Fur Showcase starting tomorrow at Lord & Taylor. You'll save 50% and more on every exquisite fur in their collection, plus hundreds more furs brought in from prestigious manufacturers and designers for this very special event. Save 50% and more at the January Fur Showcase, where the choice, the furs, and the savings are exceptional. Starting tomorrow at Lord & Taylor, Water Tower Place, Oakbrook, Woodfield, and Northbrook Court.
Governor Thompson has delivered his 14th State of the State address. He's been around that long, and it will be his last. He used it today to flatly oppose any idea of legalizing drugs. He's also calling for an 8-cent pack increase in the tax on cigarettes. Here's an interesting statistic. A new report shows that crimes motivated by racial prejudice in Chicago dropped dramatically in the last 10 years. For some reason, they keep track of such things. They say they hope it shows we're getting along better. How much are you willing to pay for another public hospital? Everybody wants emergency care, but who wants to pay for it? The county board is wrestling with that problem. They have 5 days to decide whether to take over Provident Hospital and run it as part of the county hospital chain. 2 Chicago schoolboys were wounded by gunfire. It happened on the southwest side today. The boys were both apparently victims of a gang attack, but neither has been seriously injured. And 2 schoolboys were wounded a couple of days ago. One of them has died. 10-year-old Marcus Alexander was shot by a stray bullet while playing on the floor of his home on South Buffalo. He died yesterday in County Hospital. The space shuttle's doing fine. The Columbia is the one that's up there. That's the oldest shuttle in our fleet. They say it's flying beautifully. The astronauts have deployed a communications satellite. And finally, women, how do you hold your liquor? A new study shows there's a dramatic difference between the way women drink and the way somebody like Bob Lassiter is able to slop down the suds. They say it has to do with the way you neutralize alcohol in your stomachs. They think it's related to an enzyme protection barrier that men seem to have, which seems to make alcohol less potent to them. Researchers say women should realize this when they go out with somebody like Lassiter, that they simply do not have that enzyme protection.
Never had much of a desire to drink until I started working with you.
Let's check on traffic. See, I don't know.
Catherine Johns was my news person. I didn't used to go home and, drink a half a gallon of red wine and whiskey mixed together.
Ew.
With olives.
It's a love thing. He goes home in a swoon. The moon is right.
Go home and drink iced tea.
The moon is right. The stars glitter over his $1 million high-rise. He decides to toast a glass to an afternoon of friendship and male bonding that we've had.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. Not an accurate way, but it's one way. More like trying to drown my troubles.
Bill Keller, can you help us out? How's the trip home?
Oh, the trip home's not too bad. Actually, it's a pretty light afternoon. The Kennedy, 26 minutes to the airport.
Then about a week later, she started meeting me at the front door with a drink. Then about another week into our relationship, Johnson, she started meeting me downstairs with a drink. And now it's gotten to the point where she's out there at Michigan and Wacker at 7 o'clock with a large vat of red wine and whiskey.
You'll be all right. Maybe the world will look better through numbed eyes. Cloudy, windy, cold. Did I already do the weather?
Yes, you did.
All right.
I wouldn't interrupt you unless you'd already
No,
done
you actually got me thinking about the cocktail hour.
I'd already given the temperatures, too.
Our next news will be at 6 o'clock. Bulletins at once. I'm Jim Johnson. WLS Talk Radio 890 News. Now to Bob Lassiter. Drink to me alcohol, you, Bob.
There's got to be somebody in this market that delivers red wine and whiskey. Get everything else delivered.
Somebody delivers the truth. That's me.
Yeah, right. Off we go to Evanston. Hi, Ev. You're on the air at WLS.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Yourself?
I'm okay.
You're okay? I'm okay.
Yeah, great.
What do you want to do about this AIDS epidemic?
Well, first of all, how many people have died from AIDS in the past year in 89? Do you know the number?
In 1989, no, but to this point, something approaching 50, 60,000.
Yeah, that's over the course of maybe 8-9 years, right?
Yeah, but we're talking about better than 1 million people, possibly upwards of 3 million, walking around with the virus.
Okay, so there are a lot
That's
of
an epidemic.
people walking around with the virus, but not all of them have to actually get AIDS. Not all of them have to actually get sick.
No, not all of them actually have to get sick or get AIDS, but all of them are quite capable of passing it along.
Right.
That's an epidemic.
It is an epidemic. No, I mean, I question the basic fundamental idea that it is an epidemic because, you know, you look at people, there are about 500,000 people dying every year.
You had 3 million people with the flu in this country, you'd call it an epidemic.
You know, 500,000 people dying every year from heart disease and so many dying from lung cancer, and yet there's so much more attention.
Yeah, but again, I come back and say to you, if you had 3 million people with the flu and 50 of them died over the course of a winter, you'd call it an epidemic. It is an epidemic.
Okay, I guess it depends how you define the word. Okay, it's an epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I question, well, when you consider the number that have actually died and the number that are carrying the virus, it seems to me that it isn't as bad as people are making it.
Well, I suppose there's another way to look at it. It takes longer to die than with, I don't know, maybe tuberculosis. So does that make it less of a...
It's a more painful experience, yeah. If you actually get the disease, then it's very painful, agonizing.
Yeah, sure is.
So that's a major problem.
But you don't want to do anything about it?
No, certainly got to do something about it.
Well, what do you want to do about it?
Well, I guess you can't really. I wouldn't. I think spending money on research is one thing which they're doing now, and the other thing would be to educate people to get them to use contraceptives and to try and educate the younger generation, the people who are coming out, you know, in high school, people before high school and junior high, and so forth. And hopefully, if you get them early on, they'll change their habits.
Well, fantastic. But what do we do about the 3 million people walking around now? There's 3 million time bombs.
You can't really do anything more than research.
You can't?
Sure.
Well, you do when you find somebody with hepatitis. You do when you find somebody with tuberculosis. Communicable diseases.
I think it would be extreme to put people away, to put them in a camp.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be going too far. Of course, because, you know, if you have a
why would it be going too far, by the way?
Well, because just because somebody has AIDS doesn't mean that it has to pass on to someone else. They would actually have to have sexual intercourse or blood transfusion or something like that.
You know, it might offend those people by putting them in a camp.
So you don't know if they're good. You don't know if they're going to have a blood transfusion, and maybe they're responsible. Maybe they won't have a sex with someone else.
Maybe they're not responsible.
You don't know if the person is responsible or not. But if you have a communicable, if you have some other disease where it's just casual contact will cause transfer, that's a different story altogether.
You're sure about that?
Because, you know, casual contact occurs all the time. It occurs every day. But someone doesn't have to go out and have sex every day, especially without contraceptives.
Do you have any problem with a Catholic high school kicking out a kid because she got married?
Well, I mean, if that's their rule, if the rule is known beforehand and then somebody goes out and gets married, then I think be surprised.
Well, wait a second. What kind of cockamamie rule is it in a school where you're supposed to be educated, taught reading, writing, and arithmetic, that you can't get married? Does that have any effect on learning reading, writing, and arithmetic?
I certainly don't support the rule, but given that there was a rule, the execution of the rule shouldn't come as a surprise. But the actual rule itself, I'm totally, at least it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why such a rule would be needed.
Well, how about if your employer instituted a rule that you had to be married?
Again, wouldn't
he have as much of a right to demand that you be married as the school does?
That doesn't make sense. I don't see how they can demand such a thing.
But yet you support the rule.
No, I don't support the rule. I'm just saying that given the rule was there, it shouldn't surprise people that the rule was executed.
Well, it's a stupid rule, right?
It is a stupid rule, because I don't see how that affects the education process.
Have any problem with the school making a room available for a religious group to meet after hours?
I think the school is there fundamentally to educate people, arithmetic, English, science, biology. If they want to study religion in a classroom, if they want to teach the major religions, that's fine. But I don't think a school is there for the practice of religion. That's what the church is there for, and the temples and the mosques.
So they should make a room available.
So they shouldn't. If they want to teach religion as part of their curriculum from an intellectual perspective, that's fine.
Is part of the purpose of the school building to encourage the mastering of the fine art of chess? Is that part of the educational system? A nice elitist game like chess? Do they make rooms available for that?
Well, they make rooms available for that. They have clubs for it afterwards if you want to take part.
Right. Using public facilities.
But that's strictly sport. That's like going out and joining
Not strictly sport. It's intellectual. It's intellectual discourse.
But,
it's an elitist
it's like
game.
Going out and playing basketball, that involves intellect too. You have to think while you're on the court.
Yeah, but at least the rest of the school can go watch the basketball game and have some form of entertainment. I don't know too many people that sit around and watch a chess game.
Right, but I don't see how that matters whether people go out and watch chess games. But religion is a very touchy subject with people. There are groups, there are Christians in the school, there are Muslims in the school, and you can create friction between groups if you make a room available like that. I think that's what really matters. If a certain activity can possibly create resentment or friction, then maybe you should think twice about having it. Something like
I guess cheerleading creates resentment and friction too. All the cute girls get on the squad, and all the girls who aren't cute don't.
Well,
so they resent the cheerleaders.
Well, you can take it to an extreme, I suppose.
Is that taking it to an extreme?
I think that would be taking it to an extreme if you abolish cheerleading.
Oh, I see. So some teacher gets to pick who are going to be the most popular 8 girls in the school this year and gives them silly little uniforms and pom-poms.
Well, the good-looking girls will become cheerleaders. The smarter students will get the better grades and will get better jobs. There's a natural order of things. That's going to happen in every aspect of life, not just in cheerleading. The more athletic will be the leaders and will be picked for the basketball team. The others won't. In that sense, you got to stop all activities. But there's certain things which go to the core of a person, like religion. I'm not very religious, so it wouldn't bother me. But there are many people out there who would be particularly sensitive as far as religion is concerned. It's just the way it is. But something like cheerleading is accepted. It's just the norm, and I don't think it offends people. It doesn't hurt them in the core. But something like religion, it can. If a Muslim's there and he sees the Christians going off into this room and practicing their religion, it could be offensive.
Well, I guess it would be offensive for a Muslim on public property to bow down in prayer.
Well, certainly if he was forced to do it, or if he was forced to pray in class, that would definitely...
No, I'm talking about like maybe the shopping mall or something.
Yeah.
Whoops, time to pray to Allah.
Oh, yeah.
So the Muslims shouldn't do that because it would offend people.
If a Muslim bowed down in a shopping plaza to pray to Allah?
Yeah, public place.
Well, that's not something that's being sponsored by the state, though, right?
Well, just giving a classroom over to a group isn't sponsoring, is it?
No, but it's a state. The school is run by the state, and it's just that separation of state and church. That's fundamental, isn't it?
Okay, how about the public park then? That's clearly sponsored by the state.
Right.
So Muslims shouldn't pray to Allah at the appointed hour in a public park.
No, an individual can go and do anything he wants. Society can't take away his life as long as he's not hurting somebody else. Like if an individual wants to pray, a Christian can do that, or a Muslim can do it, or a Jew can do it. Anybody can have the right to pray anywhere they want. But to actually set aside a room specifically, the state actually sets aside a room specifically for that purpose.
Well, they're out of sight at least.
Pardon me?
They're out of sight of the rest of the people at least, and not offending the rest of the people. The door's closed.
Okay.
Maybe the state's doing a service then to like the Muslim.
Right, but if they're setting aside a room, as long as a room is made available then to all the religious groups, and then maybe it would be okay. But most of the students are Christians, so I assume that this particular room would be for the use of Christians only, just because it's the majority, not because of prejudice or anything. But just because they're in the majority, I would assume that it would be for their use. That wouldn't be right, I think, because it would be offensive to the minority.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Glenview. Hi there, Glenn. You're on the air at WLS.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks.
Good. What percentage of their income, what percentage of their income is reasonable for a working class family to pay in taxes? Now, I'm talking about all taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, income taxes, state taxes. What percentage?
Of all taxes?
Yeah, what percentage of a working class family's income is reasonable?
I think in terms of a working class household, I would say certainly a fairly low percentage.
Give me a ballpark figure. 25, 30?
No, I would say about 20, 15% maybe.
15 to 20% would be reasonable for all taxes.
I think at this stage of the game in this country, I think that's necessary.
How about for a family in the top 5% income bracket? What percentage of their income would be reasonable?
I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that one.
Well, again, just take a gut guess. You said 15 to 20 for the working class family.
I would say probably maybe 30%.
30%, okay. Are the Chicago cops a bunch of bullies and thugs?
I don't think that's fair to stereotype that way in general, because it's very...
I really hate to do this, but you're hopelessly breaking up. Are you on a car phone?
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid you're getting out of range. I really apologize, but, can't hear you. And if I can't hear you, it doesn't make any sense to keep you on the air with everybody going, oh, my ears. 591-8900, 591-8900. There are, for the first time, 3 lines available. Palatine, hi, pal. You're on the air at WLS.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, I'm going to come right back at you. What percentage is reasonable of a working-class family to pay in taxes?
That's a hard one to answer for me, because I don't have a family, but you asked for a ballpark figure.
Yeah.
20, 25%.
Okay, how about that family in the upper 5%?
I'm not sure that it should be too much further away from... I think it should be pretty even all the way across the board. Maybe a little bit more, but not too much.
Why? So don't you believe in when you're talking about public services, paying according to your means?
I certainly do, sure.
Well, why should the upper income family pay more?
Why should they? Why should they pay any more than anyone else does?
They basically get more services, don't they?
Well, why should it be that way?
Well,
because they have more money? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, they have better police protection, better fire protection. The parks are usually nicer.
Why, just because they have more money? That's a crock.
Well, no, it's a fact.
Well, it may be a fact, but do you call it fair? I certainly don't call it fair. Just because they have more money, they get better protection.
Well, shouldn't they pay for it?
Excuse me?
Shouldn't they pay more for it, since they get more? I mean, in essence, what you're doing is you're asking the family that lives in the lousy part of town to subsidize the people that live in the better part of town.
I guess you could look at it that way, yeah.
So why isn't it reasonable to ask those people to pay a hell of a lot more since they get a hell of a lot more?
I guess I never looked at it that way.
Chicago cops a bunch of thieves and thugs and...
Thieves, I don't know. I don't live in Chicago. Thugs, it's questionable. I've heard stories on the news. I've heard about people themselves. I've heard people people tell me that they've gotten beat on by Chicago cops. And it's never happened to me, but...
You think all those stories you read are, kind of blown out of proportion?
They could be. It depends on who writes them. A more liberal newspaper might...
Well, let's see. There were probably, I'll just take a wild guess here, just for the purposes of conversation, maybe 25 Chicago policemen in the last year who have been accused of very serious wrongdoing. And there are approximately something like 11,000, 12,000 Chicago cops. So does that seem like a reasonable percentage to you?
No, not at all. I don't think so. No, they're cops. They should be honest, correct? They shouldn't be beating on anybody. They should be upholding the law. If they have to beat on somebody, if someone gets on the line, I can understand that. But 25 times...
You're fading. No, maybe the last year.
The last year?
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit out of line.
Well, what do you want to do about the teen pregnancy problem we have in this country?
I was just looking at a magazine, and there's one company, I don't want to name them, but they're giving away rubber condoms. And I think that's a damn good idea. I think you could do that anywhere. Liquor stores, even on a street corner. Just give them away.
Give them away?
Sure, why not?
Encourage promiscuity. Don't you realize that you have a far, far greater chance of getting cervical cancer if you start your sex life at a very early age?
I don't have to worry about cervical cancer.
All you do is you're going to get married and your wife has it.
Okay.
Or your daughter.
Okay. But you asked about pregnancy.
Oh, I know. You suggested the answer to it is by encouraging promiscuity.
Well, it's going to be there whether you give these things out or not. It's going to be there. Kids are generally just getting into it at a younger age.
Yeah, well, I know people are going to murder each other, too. Is that any reason to give away bullets because they're going to do it anyway?
No, that's not how you prevent it. You couldn't prevent it by giving away bullets. Maybe bulletproof vests. That might be a good idea.
I thank you very much. Take care. 591-8...
Poland because...
918-900. Partly cloudy, windy, a little bit colder overnight. Tomorrow, partly sunny, windy, a lot colder. Turning colder as the day progresses. An overnight low of 32, a high of 37. With temperatures then falling to the 20s by tomorrow afternoon. The official temps 31 along the lakefront, the same 31 degrees. WLS Skyview traffic with Bill Keller is next. In this edition, brought to you by Club Med.
Bob, the outbound side of the Eisenhower really filled in. It's up to 44 minutes from the post office to Mannheim. Inbound remains stop and go from the Tri-State to Des Plaines. Your main delay on the outbound Stevenson from Ashland out to Pulaski to the Tri-State toll. Give yourself 32. With Ryan, 34 minutes from downtown out to 95th. On the Kennedy, 14 to Eden, 26 to the airport. Express lane save you just over 5. Inbound, just over a half an hour from O'Hare. The Eden stop and go through to Niles Center. Slow golf to Old Orchard. Inbound, 25 from Lakewood Road. Northbound on LSD, it's slow from North Avenue most of the way up to Belmont. Southbound, just in the brakes, 53rd down to 57th. I'll have more in 15 minutes. Text WLS Skyview, shadow traffic.
Let's see, that's 1-800...